I'm Reverend Jackson. Read it? Ask me anything. Well, marijuana never should have been at the level of arrest as it was. It was used as jail bait to facilitate the expansion of the jail population. Some people use marijuana because for medical reasons, some for recreational reasons. It is now becoming increasingly legal in states in our country. And so it never should have been used as a weapon to justify arresting people en masse. Well, there is an ugly backlash, it seems, against our civil rights progress over the last 50 years. These killings have taken place for a long time, but without witnesses, we could not prove the case. With jurors who were prejudiced toward the police, they could file false reports. Increasingly now, with cameras showing these killings and mixed juries, you're getting different results. And that may be the most pronounced difference. We would not have known Walter Scott in Charleston was shot in the back and killed. We were told he dropped the gun. It was on camera. He did not. Or the case of Eric Garner in New York, or the case of Diallo in New York, or the case of Rodney King in California. So the exposure of the police lies is discrediting the reports of many police. We need police who protect and serve, but not who lie and scheme. America's history toward blacks has been a continuous pattern of violence. 246 years of slavery, violence. The Supreme Court ruling in 1857 that blacks had no rights, whites were bound to respect, violence. Or the legal ruling of apartheid, separate but equal, violence, lack of opportunity. And in latter years, in these killings, when blacks were killed or lynched, there are 4,000 lynchings between 1880 and 1950 without one indictment. Fast forward to the case of Trayvon Martin, unarmed and shot, and the killer was set free. At some point, people began to say, well, black lives do matter. There is no pattern here of protection against these attacks. Then Amadou Diallo was shot 41 times by police in his vestibule unarmed in New York, and they were set free. And then the case of Michael Brown and Ferguson. And again, the policeman was set free. The case of Garner, choked to death on camera, set free. And that gave rise to there's a pattern here, historical pattern, and in modern day, an intense pattern of blacks being profiled, falsely arrested, and beaten or hurt or injured by blacks without any kind of deterrence. And that's the status of things now. We've gone through the awful killing in Charleston, South Carolina, of 9 black people killed in the church. And since that time, there have been 7 church fires in the same state, in the same proximity. And they can't quite make up their mind, are the fires arson, are they lightning strikes, are they hate crimes, but not to the level of terrorism. We call it terrorism. First of all, Dr. King was a good and kind person. Tough mind, tender heart, intellectually very strong. He had a great sense of history. He was a very courageous man. He did not mind facing jail for his criticism or dying for his convictions. He was like the philosopher king who was willing to live or die for his convictions and to be an agent for change. He knew he was volunteering to live at great risk or die for his convictions, and he did it without a whimper. One of the memorable expressions was, do not allow a force of evil to pull you down to their level. Maintain the moral high ground. For in doing so, you must choose to get ahead and not get even. That was one expression of his. The other was, I remember so well, his last birth date, how he spent it, January 15, 1968. He convened a group of about maybe 60 of us, some blacks from the deep South, Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi, South Carolina, and the like, and some Native Americans, some Jewish allies from New York, some Latino allies from the great North, Southwest, and some women and some labor leaders on going to Washington for a poor people's campaign. Around noontime, a friend brought a cake. He said, Doc, you forgot it was your birthday. We laughed and we sliced the cake and we drank the punch. Then in the afternoon, there was a lecture on how to end the war in Vietnam. So he spent his own last birthday at home with family, in work clothes, convening a coalition of activists to go to Washington to fight to end poverty and fight to end the war. That's how he spent his own last birthday. I remember it so distinctly. I would rather have peanut butter and jam separately, but I like both of them, but not necessarily together. Well, when it's real dark, wherever there's light, you gravitate toward the light. When you're in the hole, you look for a rope and not a shovel. And so the rise of job growth and development is Silicon Valley. So we found in that valley of growth strong patterns of exclusion and patterns of denial. So we went to those meetings, about 10 or so board meetings we've gone to now, and raised questions as shareholders to Hewlett Packard or some other company, or Google or some of them, why are there no blacks on your board, or Latinos? And they have no good answer. And so these patterns are unacceptable. We find that there's more of an opportunity deficit than a talent deficit. Well, he has taken some positions, it seems, contrary to our perceived interests. He's not taken strong positions on the need for having an equal and fair access to voting, which is so critical. He assumed that problem is resolved. It is not resolved. Once the Section 4 was removed from the Voting Rights Act, we had a radical setback. On the issues like that, he has not been a very visible voice. He has not been as vocal as he should have been, and many people feel, these issues of these police attacks and violence. But I have a rather high regard for him, because I think that we have reason, we have ability to agree or disagree. He is a brilliant surgeon. And so many blacks don't like his point of view, but many blacks do. He is a very treasured person in our community, really. The criminal justice system, let me give you a case in South Carolina. Say it's 25% African American, prisons 75% African American. 25% of those prisoners are leased to private companies for 30 to 80 cents an hour. And either they do that prison labor, which is akin to slavery, or they're put in isolation in the jail system. And so police benefit from it, social workers, judges, the whole system is built around this mass arrest of black people. We have two corporations, the Correction Corporation of America, that's on the stock exchange. They actually are on the stock exchange, which means if you should get out of jail, say on Friday, it's their interest to keep you there, say to Monday. They make money. It's like a jail hotel or like a homeless shelter. So the system is in disarray and highly corrupted and very, very much affected by race. Well, the source of those tensions often come from denial of an even playing field. You know, we are very good at athletics. Why are we so good at football and basketball and track? Because the playing field is even, and the rules are public and the goals are clear. the referees are fair, and the score is transparent. On those conditions, there is no tension. You win, you lose, but with a great sense of dignity. We're in an awkward position of having high infant mortality rates, shorter life expectancy, less access to jobs, less wages, less access to capital, industry and technology, and the shorter life expectancy, because we really are living under de facto occupation. So the source of tensions are not coming from those who are victims of these schemes, but those who have the power, and they're choosing privilege, power, and greed over basic needs of human beings. And I think that's why the UN has now said the U.S. is in great violation of human rights. I was watching not long ago as the U.S. and Cuba come together now, while one of the standards that we are imposing on Cuba is human rights. And our human rights records is so weak, we're hardly able to lecture anybody on human rights as a standard. Affirmative action is designed as a conservative remedy to offset negative action. Women were denied access based upon gender. Women could not vote till 1920, and denied many jobs. Women could not be airline pilots and could not go to med school, law school, a whole range of things women just could not do. So some called Title IX, so women could have affirmative action. Blacks were denied just based upon skin color, equal opportunity. And so we had affirmative action to offset negative action. It never was a zero-sum game, but expanded it for everybody. And so today you have more women lawyers and judges and business people and CEOs because they had access to education. So that affirmative action has been good for America, and it has been working. That's why it never should have been reduced. It actually has been working. For companies that lock people out based upon race or gender, religion, goals, targets, and timetables being set is a good thing. Not long ago, I flew from Chicago to LA with 2 women pilots. It just wouldn't have happened without affirmative action, giving women the opportunity to fly planes. There was some notion that men could fly planes in ways different than women. It's not true. And because of that consciousness being raised, that's why now the idea of an African American being president or a woman being president is not so foreign to us, because over the last 50 years we've grown accustomed to seeing more blacks, more browns, more women in different and higher places. So that's an evolution in our consciousness. Women bishops and the like. Well, I think the great challenge that we have today is we as a people within the country and between countries, we've learned to survive apart. We must now learn to live together, to coexist. We must make choices. There's a tug of war for our souls. Shall we have slavery or freedom? Should we have male supremacy or gender equality? Shall we have shared religions or domination of one religion and therefore religious wars? We must learn to live together and coexist with mutual respect and mutual recognition.